This is Supernatural Selection on DeviantBehaviorRadio.com, hosted by Kevin the Bastard. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Supernatural Selection, a look at the supernatural with some professional amateurs. My name is Kevin the Bastard. With me this week is Mr. David Davis. David, how you doing, buddy?
Well, that's my skunk ape call.
Oh, well, it's nice. Yeah. I like it.
Was it good? Was it good?
It was pretty good.
Now, I wonder if it means that I'm in heat or not. I just don't know.
You know what? You'll know.
I can tell, honestly.
Look, when you go to take a shit and an arm comes through the window, you'll know it worked.
Yeah. So, a nice little preview of what we'll be talking about later today.
Yeah, absolutely. So, real quick, before we get started, we got a little bit of housekeeping to do. First off, we actually got a question on Twitter.
Ooh.
Like just after we got done recording the episode. So let me pull that up real quick. Hey, Crabtree. Let's see. Nick Conroy, fan of the podcast, asked, I want to hear some Halloween candy takes. What are your favorites? How do you feel about candy corn, almond joy, Necco wafers, good and plenty's? Also, are octopuses aliens? That's technically that's two questions, but let's go ahead and answer the Halloween candy thing. You know those like creamy candies that come in like the orange and black wrappers? Yeah. They're like peanut butter flavor. I love those. Yeah. And I don't have a problem with candy corn. I always kind of want to take like a stick of gooey, softened nougat and put the candy corn back into it and make a candy corn on the cob.
Yeah, I'm not, like, I like candy corn, but, you know, the thing is, I'll buy a bag of it, and then I'll just sit there and eat it, and then get sick of it.
Well, that's, you know, kind of like pancakes.
I especially, like, if you get the candy corn that has little pumpkins in it.
Oh, yeah.
Because that's too much candy corn in one shot with one of those pumpkins.
Yeah, that's like called the autumn...
Yeah. The autumn mix.
Yes, I saw that the other day. I was like, no, you're not getting me this time.
Yeah, because the candy corn kernel is the perfect serving size.
Exactly.
But the minute you bite into half of one of those little candy corn pumpkins...
Oh, you're done.
And you're just like, I need to eat the other half of this.
Yeah, you're halfway...
It's too much.
You're halfway through a thumb-sized pumpkin, and you're like, oh, Jesus, I gotta lay down.
But, as far as Halloween candy goes, for me... I've always been a fan of the Tootsie Pops. Whenever I buy them, I always pull out the cherry ones first.
Oh, I love the cherry ones,
I always set those aside. You know, when I go to Dollar Tree to buy the candy for Halloween, I'll always buy the bags that have at least 2 or 3. Because the bag's transparent, so you can look inside.
And you can
so I get the one with at least 2 or 3 of the cherry ones, and I hoard those to myself.
See,
and,
yeah.
And the other candy, it's I get them for $1. It's like these little fruit chews. They're just basically like this sweet chew, but inside they have this little like gel or something, like different fruit flavors, and they're super cheap. Like I prefer fruity candies. I'm not as huge as chocolate anymore.
Halloween, I'm always into fruity candies, but also like I'm huge on chocolate. Like and honestly, anything butterscotch or peanut butter, I will follow you home. I don't care if you're like fucking Richard Ramirez. I will follow you home if you have chocolate and peanut butter.
You know, and the candy I wish they would give out on Halloween, they just don't, because it's like an old person candy, is snow caps. I love snow caps.
Snow caps. Oh yeah, man, it's
little those. Little chocolate parfaits or whatever they are with like the little white sprinkles, and like I'll get those. Like I'll get a box of them, but there's no one handing out boxes of those for Halloween.
Yeah, they're kind of a Christmas thing, and you don't want to like mix your Christmas with your Halloween, because then like it's like
they
matter
go well
and
with popcorn, by the way.
I know. Oh, yeah. God, I know, dude. We used to get like a box of those and pour them in our popcorn. Like we did that when I saw Transformers, the movie, back in '86 to date myself.
I think I'm going to be getting some popcorn and some snow caps when I go to see the Eternals this weekend.
Oh, I'm just going to wait for it to come on Disney Plus, because quite frankly, I don't want to go out in public here.
Yeah, it's not so bad over here. We got one of our theaters has those very nice new like plush seats with the little trays and everything like that.
Yeah. Now there's like a couple of movies coming. We've got a new IMAX screen here in town, and I went and saw Dune in IMAX.
Oh,
totally fucking worth it, dude. Oh my god,
Dune is so good. You should just do a special episode where it's just you and I talking about Dune.
Oh my god, yeah, no, I mean it's its own thing. It transcends everything. But also, speaking of events, I'm going to bring up the fact that if you're listening to this right now on Friday the 4th, Friday the 5th, my bad, I have slipped through time here. Tomorrow, I will be in Natchez with Clark Wayne at the Natchez Bigfoot Bash. So come to the VIP tent and see us. We will have stuff to hand out. Probably not as much as we thought, but I've got business cards.
You all got a banner for your table?
We do have a banner for the table.
Hell yes. I'm so proud of you guys.
Yeah.
I love what you guys have done with Deviant Behavior Radio. I'm happy to be a part of it. Thank you for giving me 2 shows.
Hey, no problem, man. Your second show is taking the place of the show I don't have the energy to do, so that is awesome. But yeah, we're going to be there. If you're listening on Sunday, you missed it, but we're going to do a recap. We're going to do an episode that will have been recorded at the Bigfoot birthday bash. So you will get to experience it the way we experienced it, which is working for a living. So
that'll be our first live show.
Oh then. Yeah, that'll be our first actual go around interview show. We have got a lot of Bigfoot celebrities we're going to talk to. I'm going to try not to piss them off by bringing up ghost monkeys. I mean, hell, I might actually be able to interview Afro Man for this.
That's so good.
That's going to be great. So I think that's it for the housekeeping this week. So David, let's get into it.
All right. Well, we finally arrived at the end of our Boggy Creek journey. Kevin, how do you feel about the Fouke Flap after talking about it for over 2 episodes now?
Look, I'm gonna be honest. This has been catching up with an old friend that I've really missed the big hairy lummox, and I've missed the Fouke Monster as well.
Well, I'm not that big. I'm 5'6".
Okay,
thank you.
That's fair. But yeah, no, seriously. I mean, the Fouke Monster. It's in my DNA. It's almost like catching up with a friend of my parents, that I liked and getting to talk to them. So I've really, really enjoyed this episode. And also, you've written it so well. I want to get that out there.
I appreciate that.
At the start. You have done an amazing job with this series. So
I'm looking forward to taking a research break, that's for sure.
I can fucking imagine, because I've already started reading a book that, quite frankly, if this were Call of Cthulhu, I'd be losing sanity points.
Well, and doing all this gives me an appreciation. I've always appreciated what podcasters do, especially Marcus Parks and Henry Zabrowski on last podcast on the left.
And Carolina Hidalgo as well, doing a research on their music show No Dogs in Space. That woman is a monster when it comes to digging up obscure information.
Well, and it's also that thing about you have to create a through line, because you can't just read a book and throw facts at people. You have to have some sort of structure, and I think the method to our madness will be apparent by the end of the episode, which I'm excited about.
I believe so. So, where were we last time, my friend?
Okay, so last time we had talked about the Fouke Flap that led to Charles B. Pierce kind of arriving.
Yes.
So this 3-part series owes a lot to the work of Lyle Blackburn, who wrote The Beast of Boggy Creek, The True Story of the Fouke Monster. We've used that book for all 3 episodes. Again, very well-written book. Provides a lot of information about the Legend of Boggy Creek that you would ever really need. And it's still just an incredibly entertaining book.
Yeah.
So it basically, it's a must-read for anyone who wants a quality book documenting such a unique skunk ape, as it were.
Yeah, I agree. This is the kind of book that shows like ours really thrive on, so I would like to get everyone to consider getting a copy of this book and supporting Mr. Blackburn, because, I mean, holy crap, we wouldn't be here if it weren't for, like, the people that do the actual on-the-ground research.
Yeah, and the book is so fun, and there's so much that I've, like, had to omit, just because I don't want to, like, rip off the work he's doing.
Sure.
Just because there's so much good storytelling, and we'll actually hint at a story in this episode that we'll have to revisit another time.
I can't wait for that.
But you can get the full story in the episode in the book.
Oh, yeah. Let's, yeah. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
Oh, yes. All right. So we're going to turn back to where we opened the series with filmmaker Charles B. Pierce.
Oh, Chuck.
Yeah. So, inspired by reports about the Fouke Monster that stemmed from the Fouke flap of like 1970, 1971, he decided he wanted to strike while the iron was hot and make a movie. Now, we only covered a few of multiple sightings in the area through that period of time, but if you want to read a thoroughly documented accounting of sightings, I definitely encourage you to buy Lyle Blackburn's book. It's definitely, I've enjoyed it a great deal as I've been working on this. It's one of those that's going to go on like my paranormal shelf and just like, it's going to be a place of honor, really.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So, one thing I want us to think about when we talk about the movie The Legend of Boggy Creek is that it came out in August of 1972. And the incidents that we covered in the previous episode ran up through June of 1971. That means that once Charles B. Pierce decided he was going to make a movie, he basically just hit the ground running with it.
And that is a genius move. I mean, he's riding the wave of interest in this monster locally. Everything is fresh on the mind of the witnesses. His timing is absolutely perfect, and I applaud him for his speed in this.
Yeah, I mean that's hustle and that's drive right there.
Absolutely,
you gotta respect that.
Don't hate the player, hate the game.
Yep. So, while this wasn't the first movie he was involved with, it was his directorial debut. He kind of transitioned from the advertisement industry into the world of movies.
And I think that's also very important. We'll get into that later, but and we did talk a little bit in the first episode about like his first movies, like The Town That Dreaded Sundown. Yeah, definitely. I would definitely suggest you take a look at the filmography of Mr. Pierce.
Yeah. So, where we last left him off in, I think, clear back in episode 1, he had convinced Mr. Ledwell of Ledwell and Son Enterprises to put up the money for the movie, which ended up being about $100,000 out of, I think, $160,000 total. I've seen different numbers floating around.
But that's still, like, more than half, and that's amazing.
Yeah. So, with Ledwell on the hook for funding most of the film, Pierce went to work on what was arguably his second most important task, which was to establish the authenticity of the movie.
Can I just say it's really odd to be discussing Squatchkin and using the term authenticity? And have we discussed the term Squatchkin already?
I don't think we've actually talked about Squatchkin.
Okay, well, one of the things I wanted to bring up is, like, this creature is about as dangerous as the infamous buttersquatch, but, like, the Squatchkin is kind of my new term for any of these big hairy bipeds, because BHBPs is kind of a mouthful to remember, so I'm just kind of going with Squatchkin.
I like it.
It's nice. I think it's marketable, trademarkable, and anyone that would like to contact us about merchandising, check out our website for contact links.
I just keep thinking of like a kid's toy commercial, get your Squatchkins at Walmart.
We promise Charles Lee Ray has not possessed one of our dolls.
I like that. Squatchkin is pretty cute. We could probably do a whole bunch. Oh, that gives me an idea for a t-shirt.
Ooh.
Instead of Care Bears, it's just little miniature chibi forms of different skunk apes.
Oh my God, you have got to draw those. I will give you a cut of any t-shirt sales we get from that dude, I promise.
All right, we're going to have to make that work, and just give each little Squatchkin his own little attitude. It would be so cute.
Absolutely. I just discovered we have a name for the one here in Mississippi. It's the Mississippi Mudfoot.
Nice. That's a good one. I like that one.
Oh, this is gonna be great.
And it's alliterative. That's even better.
I know. So let's move on before we get like sidetracked into marketing like Pierce was.
Okay. So one of the goals was to establish authenticity, and you point out that it's kind of odd to discuss authenticity, but you also have to kind of take that into account because he's relying on local lore and everything like that. He kind of needs them, even though he's making the movie, he needs them to kind of verify that, oh yeah, these are things that are happening. Yeah, you've got to like establish, like, I'm not just making this up. You want the people involved. Yeah, and because he is going to turn to that documentary style, that's even more important. So in order to do this, to establish this authenticity, Pierce sought the cooperation of the local people of Fouke. But it proved more difficult than initially expected. Yeah. The problem was nobody was interested. Pierce stated that, quote, they didn't want to make a movie, they didn't ask for money, they didn't want anything, they wanted to be left alone, in fact, unquote.
Look, having been into rural Mississippi, I have got to wonder how many shotgun barrels he has stared down while trying to get this thing made, because, I mean, I just had to turn around in a guy's driveway, and this guy came out with a fucking double-barrel shotgun aimed at my car.
I'm sure you've pointed a gun at a mailman or two.
Me? No.
Yeah, you.
Never.
Yeah, you're a Mississippi boy.
Look, my grandpa,
at some point, you're just like, get off my property.
Not me. My grandpa, I can't make any promises.
But yeah. So get the sense that these rural people didn't really want to be involved or draw any attention to themselves.
Yeah.
But Pierce was persistent. Seeking to strike while the iron was hot, but facing disinterest in the town, he pursued his project anyway. So he made that good faith effort to kind of get in touch with people. Didn't work out so well at first.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, these are quiet, rural people, and they just want to live their lives and not be counted on the census.
Yeah, they want their broods to be somewhat anonymous.
I mean, and seriously, how many stills do they have to cover for?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So eventually, Pierce did find some locals who would talk to him, and some who would even help out with the movie. Some locals would take him around to locations of their own sightings,
and that's cool.
But most wanted to kind of like remain anonymous and refused to be in the reenactments of their stories.
Mm-hmm.
Pierce ultimately agreed to that, realizing that he would need to cast different people for the reenactments if he was going to make the film work.
Look, I'm just going to say, I can't imagine Smokey has the acting chops of, say, Brian Cox. So I can imagine he needs some, quote, actors.
And what we'll find is even though Smokey has a pretty significant role in the film behind the scenes,
which is great.
He isn't on screen for too long in the film itself.
Mm-hmm.
So, Pierce does a couple of research trips, and he finds he's ready to move on. So he hires a local advertising associate named Earl E. Smith, who was in Texarkana, to help pen the script. At this point, the working title of the film was, quote, Tracking the Fouke Monster, end quote, and the documentary concept was pretty much set then.
Not gonna lie, I think the title they went with was stronger.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
It has more mystique to it.
Mm-hmm.
So the plan was to use overdubbing to stitch narration over the documentary footage and reenactments, which was useful given the lack of any real actors involved with the film.
Oh, and overdub they did. Narration, folk songs, wonderful shots of a guy in a ghillie suit playing in the river. They really did, like, they played to their weaknesses, if you know what I mean.
This is like no budget filmmaking in the best way possible.
Yeah, absolutely. They definitely knew where their weaknesses were, and they covered them as best they could.
Yeah. Now, one of the key figures in helping Pierce achieve this film was Smokey Crabtree,
who didn't have shit to do.
Yeah. So he quickly began to give Pierce and Smith tours around Fouke and the surrounding terrain. And in fact, one interesting component of this, Smokey's knowledge of the waterways of the Mercer Bayou was key in Pierce being able to shoot so much B-roll of the natural landscapes. And some of this is the most beautiful stuff in the movie.
You're not wrong, man. I mean, honestly, if you take the monster out of this entire film is a commercial for Visit Fouke, which makes sense if you consider that everybody has this marketing background. It really is almost a tourism commercial.
Yeah, and it really is, because like when you see the landscape in the film, because I've seen some of the 4K restoration of it.
Ooh.
And it's beautiful. Like even for like a 1970s like 16 millimeter camera.
Oh yeah.
Like the shots are just gorgeous, and like the color, it's all natural, and it's a very enchanting sort of landscape.
Oh, it is. It's gorgeous. It makes me want to go buy a pack of Marlboro Menthols.
Yeah. So, Smokey's association with the film carried some other benefits as well. So, last time we discussed the terrifying encounter of Lynn Crabtree, Smokey's son, with the Fouke Monster, where the kid had taken like 3 shots at the head of the creature, and it didn't phase it, and they came back and they found, shot that, like, they saw they found the small animal shot in the tree and everything like that.
Like, exactly, like at 8 feet where the head would have been.
Yeah.
Right.
So, the thing is, Lynn, just forever after, Lynn was still very much rattled by the encounter.
Right.
And absolutely refused to be in the documentary.
Yeah.
However, Smokey's other son, because there's always another Crabtree, Travis stood in for his brother for the reenactment.
Right.
And beyond that, Smokey would come in handy in other ways. He was a liaison for the film for the local residents, and he also helped to cast the movie at the local gas station.
Jesus Christ. Hey, Ernest. Hey, man. Hey. You want to be in this movie when you finish that tater log? Man, come on. Come on over here. Come on. Finish that thing. My God.
I'm going to go ahead and quote Pierce from an interview with Fangoria.
Oh,
which,
awesome.
Like, number one, I love Fangoria, man.
Absolutely. And I love that they did an interview with him. That's great.
Yeah, I mean, because this is an important movie, man.
Yeah.
In a lot of ways, and we'll see why. But, all right, so here's what Pierce had to say. Quote, when someone pulled in, we'd say, now she'd be a good Peggy Sue, and we walk out there to the gas pumps and say, ma'am, we're shooting a little movie. Would you like to be in it? She'd say, well, what do I have to do? And I'd say, oh, you just run across the field out here. We get out there to the field, and she'd say, what do I do? And I'd say, I want you to come across over there screaming and run real fast. We never did makeup or anything like that unless the creature got on them, and then we put a little ketchup on for the blood.
Kind of like the tater logs.
And there were plenty of tater logs. What the fuck is a tater log?
You've never seen a tater log? It's basically just like a giant fucking French fry that you get in a gas station down here in the South.
What the fuck is a tater? I've never seen that.
It's a deep fried potato log, man.
Like I've seen like the spiral cut potato, like the potatoes where they it's like a potato tornado or something like that, where it's just they like.
What the fuck is that? This is like a giant crinkly fry, kinda.
That sounds that sounds incredibly dumb.
It's really good. Like, they're super soft, and
but you're mostly just eating like starchy potato, and there's not enough fried element around it.
No, there is. It's deep fried, like longer than it should be, and then you get ketchup with it. It's great, man. I mean that, and like
it's no wonder you guys lost the war.
It's no wonder we lost the war. It's no wonder we all have diabetes. What the fuck are you talking about? Like, seriously, it's also one of those things that you're not going to find on a lot of menus unless you're in a gas station.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Okay. But as far as the whole, man, we're shooting a movie, you want to be in it? I'm really glad this didn't go into like a casting futon situation. I'm just.
I think you mean casting truck bed.
Yeah. Ma'am, I got me a mattress here in the back of this Ford F-100.
Casting
I think you ought to come over. God. Remember, kids, just say no to being in a movie while buying your big gulp, okay? Oh, my God.
I don't know. I'm still hung up on the tater log. I'm going to have to look that up.
Everybody needs a Google tater log. I'm just saying, you get like some chicken strips or like some deep fried catfish with your tater logs, and you are set for the day, man. You're not going to have to eat again because we're talking like 6,000 calories. I'm
just thinking of a big French fry, and it concerns me.
It is. It's a big French fry. It reminds me of the
fucking candy corn. The little candy corn pumpkin. It's like it's too much of one thing.
No, you only get like 2 or 3. We're not talking about like a whole bag of them.
Okay, I'm going to move on.
Okay, let's move forward because you're not going to get it unless you come down here and I take you to a gas station. That's all there is to it.
That's going to be the trip. It's like, I'm here, Kevin. Let's go to the gas station.
Okay, there we go.
Okay, so after a while, Pierce did have enough support from the community to make up a sizable volunteer effort. Even down to like the local police assisting in roadblocks and supplying vehicles as needed.
Which is awesome.
Mm-hmm. It became a community affair. So, though the volunteers were not always consistently available, there was a large enough pool that the production was like relatively untroubled.
And let me tell you, man, as a filmmaker, the first day you shoot on an independent film, it really feels like an actual Hollywood production for a little bit. Because everybody is there, and they all want to see what you're doing, and they all think it's going to be glamorous. And then by the fourth day, you've got anybody that's not acting working crew, and anyone on the crew is playing bit parts. I mean, everybody that was there on that first day suddenly has something else to do that doesn't involve standing there holding a boom mic. It is a nightmare. So,
yeah, everybody wants to be a part of the film until they see like the work that it entails.
Yeah, I know. I mean, movies sound really glamorous until you make one, and then you realize this is boring as shit.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Now, as for the Fouke Monster, Pierce realized the necessity of having the monster present in the film, and he ordered a gorilla suit from a costume warehouse in L.A.
Yes.
So Pierce and his team supplemented that suit by buying some wigs from a local shop and sewing them onto the head of the gorilla mask to give the beast a shaggier look.
And that is shockingly effective, actually. I think their use of lighting really helps that. There are a lot of, like, scenes close to, like, the magic hour where, like, it's in silhouette, so it just looks like a shaggy monster.
Yeah, and like anytime you get a close up on something, there's some sort of, it's only like a hand, or it's like a shoulder, or if it's on the eyes, you don't see the full face.
Oh yeah, no, they definitely went with the old horror trope of the less you see, the scarier it is.
Yeah, and that's kind of them recognizing like the weakness in what they had, and then turning that into a strength.
Absolutely.
Now, when it comes to who wore the suit, and I'm following Blackburn's lead here, there were 3 people who were confirmed. So first you had Pierce's brother-in-law, Steve Lyons.
Because you always go with family first.
You had the son of the producer, Steve Ledwell.
He thought this was going to get him into Hollywood.
And then you have yet another Crabtree in Keith Crabtree. However, it seems that Keith was uncredited in the final film.
Do you think like they had to pull him off the water tower with his rifle because of that? Like,
I think he just carried like the actress who played Mary Beth up the water tower and started doing a King Kong thing.
You know what? That's actually, you know what? We're gonna get into the whole biopic thing, but I would include that as a fictional event.
There we go.
Yeah.
So, like, I think we can both agree that, like, the film looks dated today.
Oh, God, yes.
Yeah, like, there's still some gorgeousness to it, but it definitely feels like an artifact of 1970s independent film.
Yeah.
You know, largely crude with largely crude and cast with the local Arkansas swamp people.
Yeah.
You know, I mean that in the most affectionate way possible.
Yes, absolutely.
The film was a huge risk at the time, given what we would come to know as like the guerrilla style of film craft here. Because we'd seen like guerrilla style film before, but not like, I would argue, not at this level. And when I talk about guerrilla style, I'm not just talking about the rented suit.
Yes, absolutely. That's a completely different thing entirely. Like, you know. Yeah, no. I mean, because, like, the only other movie I can think of that was, like, guerrilla style at the time like this was, I hate to say it, is fucking Attack of the Killer Tomatoes.
Yeah, I'm also thinking, what was Werner Herzog making movies back in 1973? Or no, he's more of, like, 1980s, wasn't he?
Well, I kind of think Herzog's been doing films since Moses was alive, but yes.
Right? You know, so when he filmed Nosferatu, it's just he was like, "Hey Max, you already did that movie. Let's make ours."
Yeah.
So you know, in a lot of ways, the film is very quaint.
Yes.
And it's pretty relaxing, actually. But there's also this kind of real quality to it that can be super unnerving. You know, so let's take, for example, all those beautiful shots of the swamp and the waterways around Texarkana. You know, haunting in their beauty, but when taken in conjunction with the folk music score, you know, it's very kind of
whimsical in a way.
It's whimsical, but then you think about like what you're seeing, and you think about the isolation and density seen in these moments. You know, the density of the landscape. You can envision something living out there, and for many people, they can confirm as much.
You're not wrong. The movie does a fantastic job of sort of blurring the line on how seriously you're meant to take this, because You're faced with like a sighting or an attack or something, and then you're treated to like 5 minutes of folk music with beautiful footage, but it really does have this underlying menace that something's out here. Like it never calls into question the reality of the situation.
Yeah, and I would have a hard time thinking of Charles B. Pierce as a believer in this, but he doesn't disparage those who do.
Oh no, God no.
So, while the film was crafted primarily to entertain, and some liberties are taken for the subject, Blackburn confirms that many of the moments from the film have a sort of researchable base story upon which they are derived. Mm-hmm. So that's part of that whole authenticity angle.
Yes.
That, Pierce can go back and say, well, this moment's actually based on this thing that happened in 1964.
Yeah, I mean, that says a lot about Pierce, but that really says a lot about Blackburn as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so, Blackburn writes in this book that, quote, after extensive research, I've been able to correlate most of the scenes to something that was either reported in the newspaper or circulated by word of mouth.
Right.
And, the level of research that Blackburn does in this book is super impressive. You could tell he did that research.
Yes.
So while the film does have, these dramatic embellishments, the roots of real events and stories of this community are very much present and recognizable.
And and I think that's one of the reasons that it stands out so much is because it's never like it's never something that's completely unbelievable. Mm-hmm. It's always like something with enough grain of salt that you're questioning it.
Right.
Yeah.
So we've talked about some of the scenes in previous episodes that kind of filter into Pierce's documentary, but I just want to bring up a couple of them. Mm-hmm. A couple other ones that we haven't talked about yet. So, the film begins with a scene in which the narrator is seen as a child fleeing to Willie Smith's gas station. This would probably be the Monster Mart.
Yes.
Right. So he flees to Willie Smith's gas station seeking help as he and his mother had seen, a creature near their farm.
Right.
Now, the boy is played by Charles Pierce's son, Chuck Pierce.
Of course he is.
Yeah, because,
that's what you do. You go, like I said, you go to family first.
Hey, Junior, get out there.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So, the scene in question is based on a very similar, real story. A local mother in the 1960s sent her 7-year-old kid into town. It was like a 2.5-mile walk by himself.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, to inform their landlord that there was a sighting of a large-haired creature near their home.
Look, I have one kid. I can have me another kid.
Yeah, I got the messenger kid. If I lose one, I got the other.
And the good news is if he survives, he can bring me back some tater logs.
They're like homing pigeons.
Yeah. They always make it home.
So, the reason I bring up this scene is because so many of the sequences in the movie are like this, where there's a core event derived from interviews or articles, but tweaked slightly to convey the story Pierce wishes to tell.
Right.
Because the whole movie is narrated by this child, all grown up.
Right.
And the child's talking about, well, here's all the things we saw in Fouke. Mm-hmm. Nothing inherently wrong with this, but it is important to note that the events of the Legend of Boggy Creek are not one-to-one with reported incidents.
And it couldn't have helped the population growth.
Yeah. So another thing we want to talk about, and a personal favorite for both of us, is the world-class hunting dogs.
Oh, man, I cannot explain to you how much I love the world-famous hunting dogs in this film. I mean, there must have been Rin Tin Tin, Canine Cop, Lassie, Astro from the Jetsons. I don't know. It's just great.
Yeah, and it's funny because, we make such a big deal out of this, but not a whole lot happens with them, but it's just something inherently hilarious about all of this.
Yeah, they really emphasize how famous these dogs were.
Yeah.
It's just one of those weird things.
The scene in question follows up on a number of encounters by having the people of Fouke form this hunting party. Mm-hmm. And there have been a couple hunting parties throughout the 60s and
sure.
Early 70s because, it's okay, well, let's go take a look for this thing. So, yeah, I'm going to quote Blackburn here. Mm-hmm. In this scene, a group of hunters and law officials set out on foot and horseback, accompanied by world-class tracking dogs, in an attempt to flush out the solitary brute. Now this whole sequence is based on an amalgamation of searches, but what we really want to focus on here is that these dogs are a big deal in the movie, hilariously so.
Yes.
So to begin with, many of the dogs in the film were the very same dogs involved in some of those real searches prior to the movie.
Oh, the same dogs. It's like Weird Al getting the same janitor in the frickin' Nirvana video.
And then, these are also like major prized dogs from Arkansas, Texas, and Tennessee.
Yeah.
So they build up like the pedigree of these dogs and like just how great these dogs are. Mm-hmm. And the scene culminates with the dogs terrified to give chase to the creature, and they like turn tail and run away.
All right, look, I've got a really sneaky suspicion that these dogs were the most expensive talent in the film, and by God, they were gonna film them.
They got paid more than Smokey did.
Oh, I guarantee you they got paid more than Smokey did, because these dogs don't accept moonshine for payment.
I can imagine like a Tennessee hunting dog would probably drink moonshine pretty easily.
You know what? You're not wrong. I'm not gonna lie.
So, just something about that dog scene. It's like ultimately very inconsequential. Like the movie could probably do without it, but it also kind of sets up that like, oh yeah, even the dogs are afraid of this thing.
You know what? I don't think it could. I think it's needed. I don't think I would have enjoyed the film nearly as much without the famous hunting dogs.
Oh, okay, yeah. I derive way too much enjoyment from these hunting dogs. So you're probably right here.
Yeah.
So, there's another fun scene in the movie that follows the second of two songs in the film. So there are two major folk music numbers in the film, right. And one of them is "Hey Travis Crabtree, Wait a Minute for Me."
Yes. And
so I would like to play that for us.
Oh, you're in luck, David. I've got it queued up right now, and I think we can both hear it with our recording gear. So I'm going to play it right now, ladies and gentlemen. Nobody Sees the Flowers But Me / Hey Travis Crabtree from the Legend of Boggy Creek.
Why are there so many songs about rainbows?
Damn it, Kermit!
Hey Travis Crabtree, wait a minute.
Oh my God!
Let's go.
I love it, man.
Yeah.
Back where the fish are biting.
Where the fish are biting.
Where all the world's inviting. And nobody sees the flowers bloom but me.
You know, I would have liked to have heard Burl Ives cover this.
You haven't lived until you've heard Joe Bob Briggs sing it.
Has he sang this?
Yes, on the last drive-in. Yeah, he did a whole musical number. It was beautiful.
Oh, I've got Shudder. I'm gonna go back and look at that.
Unfortunately, you cannot. The Boggy Creek episode is no longer on Shudder.
Balls.
Yes, balls indeed.
Now, I want to point out, during this scene, we're watching him put dead fish into a sack. And I think I have this jacket.
We'll have to post the video in the notes.
Yes. Oh my God, yeah.
And then the wah-wah trumpets coming in.
While the falcon flies high across the yellow-eyed sky.
The yellow-eyed sky, ladies and gentlemen.
To be free. Hey, Travis Crabtree.
Is he about to start talking about how it's a shame we lost the war? Oh, there's them eggs cooked over an open fire.
Yep.
I've made eggs like this.
Oh man.
I love that
I made it on the sidewalk once.
I love that it says Vicks Vapor Rub on this box, and Vicks is crossed out and it says Dickens.
Didn't even notice that.
Yeah, I'm just sitting here going, like, nobody's gonna see Vicks.
nobody sees the flowers bloom but me.
The guy singing it, I forget his name, but like he's putting it out there, man. He's giving it to that song.
This is like the guy that did the Pokemon theme, and the amount of effort that he put into it. That was honestly beautiful and painful all at once, and I love it. I mean, and it kind of gets you in that mood where it's like, well, maybe I want to go camping.
You know, it's a very comforting song, and that's the weird thing about the Legend of Boggy Creek.
It really is. It's a bizarre mixture.
It's about a scary skunk ape, but at the same time, you've got Travis Crabtree in his canoe.
Yep.
And they got the folk music in the background.
Hey, Travis Crabtree. Yeah, no, it's great. I mean, there's nothing I don't like about that song except the song.
It's very conflicting.
Yeah.
So let's move on from that lovely little song to something completely different.
Yes.
About a man with disability.
Yeah, this guy, man, holy shit, this guy.
Yeah. So they play the song, and then they kind of follow Travis Crabtree as he visits a man named Herb Jones. One of those wonderfully authentic oddities in the film.
Oh, yeah.
So Jones played himself, and was notable for having lived in a shack on the bayou for 20 years, which has since been reclaimed by the landscape.
You know, I don't think nature actually claimed it to begin with. I think it's more of it just encroached on it, and it's there. I don't think nature wanted anything to do with anything that happened in this shack.
So, Jones, in the film, he is presented as a skeptic. He never claimed to have seen the monster in the swamp, but he did have his own shocking encounter with his own gun. He accidentally shot himself in the leg a long time prior to the film. He was fumbling with the gun in the canoe, and like it got pointed at his leg, and something had pulled the trigger, and it blew his leg off.
Look, that thing that pulled his trigger was probably called a finger.
Right. I don't know, but here's the thing. Given his isolation, he was forced to crawl several miles through the swamp for help. Now, this isn't really important to the episode overall, but I just want to point out how fucking hardscrabble these people can be.
Jesus Christ, didn't Liam Neeson do a movie about this guy or something?
I would not be surprised.
Jesus. Herb Jones, played by Liam Neeson in the upcoming movie, man, fuck the swamp.
Right? It's a very, and it doesn't have a whole lot to do with our monster, but I just feel like it's an important story to share, especially because the scene with him immediately follows like the Travis Crabtree song. So it's kind of weird. Yeah.
It's like, okay, here's this whimsical little song about a guy enjoying nature out in the woods. Now here's Herb.
Yeah,
Herb's going to tell you about his fucking leg.
The guy who lives in the swamp for 20 years.
Yeah.
On a little island.
He lived in that swamp, and you know what? I'm on the wager he fucking died in that swamp.
Probably. So those couple scenes are important, but I want to kind of turn back to an event that we had talked about last time we were together.
Oh, yes.
Which was the Don Ford, Charles Taylor incident.
Mm-hmm.
Which serves as like the conclusion and like the dramatic capper for the Legend of Boggy Creek.
Well, it is really the most dramatic encounter we covered, period.
Yeah, I think so. So, it's largely accurate to the spirit of the event, but, there are some slight changes. Nothing overly dramatic with the exception of how the scene ends. So again, it's like that idea of the kernel of truth and Pierce tweaking it to fit the narrative that he needs, that he wants from the film.
Yeah.
So, after shooting off the creature in the movie, we get a scene with Bobby Ford taking time to think over the night's terror on the toilet.
Which is where else?
Yeah, you nearly shit yourself dealing with a moon ape. So you're like, okay, I need to take care of myself.
Yes.
So
this is what you call self-care in Arkansas.
Right. Thankfully they had indoor plumbing.
Yes. I cannot tell you how big of a problem that actually is sometimes out here.
So, here again, the monster returns, ripping off the window of the bathroom and reaching in for Bobby, who scrambles out.
Again, possibly the greatest toilet scene ever filmed, and this is worth going through the entire movie for. I could literally see this happening to one of my uncles.
And this was something that really affected your dad, right?
Oh, yeah, no, this is a scene where my dad had been telling me about this since I was a wee nip. And then I finally saw it, and I was like, no, I get it. I'll never forget my dad turned and looked at me after the scene because I'm just staring at the screen and he just goes, yeah, look, there wasn't a lot to do out in Smith County back in the 70s. This was like the talk of the neighborhood, okay?
Oh, it's great. It's fantastic.
No, it is. Like, it seriously. You need to watch the movie just for that scene alone.
Mm-hmm. So, that kind of covers the movie itself. I mean, we could probably go further, but also we don't need to because we're 3 episodes into this.
Yeah, you just need to go watch the damn movie.
Yeah, and it's super cheap on YouTube and everything like that. It's a fun night. It is a fun night. Get yourself some snow caps and some popcorn.
Yeah.
Get yourself some whiskey or something and just watch a Skunk Ape movie.
Yeah.
So, I want to transition here to, what happened after the movie came out, and I want to talk about some later sightings.
Yes. Let's talk about the aftermath of the film a little bit.
So, the story of the finishing touches for the premiere of The Legend of Boggy Creek, it's a great story.
Yeah.
But I want to leave that for Lyle Blackburn's book. Because, I think people need to buy this book.
I agree.
I do want to quote Pierce regarding the premiere, though.
Okay.
Now, Pierce stated that, quote, there were people lined up for 4 or 5 blocks. People had brown bag lunches with them because they knew they couldn't get into the next showing, but they didn't want to lose their place in line. I knew it was going to work when they started laughing and getting excited and screaming whenever that booger jumped out. I got a G rating, and so the kids were there screaming, and it was scaring the devil out of them. I knew I had a winner.
Man, that has got to be the best feeling in the world. You did exactly what you set out to do. Mm-hmm. You made a movie anybody can watch because of the G rating. Mm-hmm. I am legitimately proud of this guy for this.
Yeah, because I'm thinking we even mentioned the fact that the film is rated G.
Yeah.
And it's still very creepy and effective for being a G-rated film.
It's a G-rated film, but there's nothing gory about it. It's something you can take a kid to and then take him to therapy years later.
Yeah, and it's because of that documentary, that search for authenticity that kind of drove the film is why it worked as a PG or as a G-rated horror film.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And there's a lot of people that will argue, well, a horror movie has to be R. And I stand by the fact that no, it doesn't, because just watch this.
Mm-hmm. Now, Pierce thought he had a winner, and he certainly did have a winner. The film stands out in the memories of many kids in the 1970s. I would say some of the adults who are still with us.
Yes.
And also earned around $20 million in the 1972 box office.
That's good.
It became the 10th highest grossing film of 1972. That was the same year Alien came out.
Holy crap.
Right?
Yeah.
So in 1975, the film earned close to $5 million on theatrical rentals in North America alone.
Look, speaking as someone who's getting on in years, to this day, people around here are still talking about this movie who were alive back then. I don't think I can explain to people outside of the Southeast just how big a deal this movie was here in the South of the United States. And I can't explain the impression it left on the people that saw it. I mean, my dad was not alone in that. One of my coworkers, I was just talking about, the episodes we're recording right now. He's like, well, what are you working on? Well, we're working on part 3 of the Fouke Monster. And he's like, holy shit, I saw The Legend of Boggy Creek when I was a kid, and I still remember that movie. That part where that arm came through and got that guy in the toilet. I was like, okay, well, that's everything you need to know right there. Anybody of a certain age is going to remember this movie.
Everybody's going to remember the arm. and they're going to remember Hey Travis Crabtree.
Yeah, no, you're not wrong, because he started humming Hey Travis Crabtree, and I was like, holy shit.
It's one of those movies that I think everybody should see at least once. You know, you may not love it, but you'll have an appreciation of it and what it's doing. You might think it's like a little old, a little hokey,
sure,
but there's something monumentally important about it in a lot of ways.
It is, and you know what it kind of reminds me of? It reminds me of when Oh Brother, Where Art Thou came out. And it was filmed in Mississippi, and it took place in Mississippi, and it played in the local theater for 2 years.
Oh, wow.
Because everybody just kept going to see it.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like
totally see that.
Huge cultural impact in the area where it took place.
Yeah. So, I want to share one quote from a review that I think explains why the film worked so well. So you and I have been talking about why we think the film worked so well.
Right.
But here's a quote from Glenn Lovell of The Hollywood Reporter.
Which that's a pretty big deal.
Yeah. So he wrote, "The film captures the eerie beauty of Arkansas's primeval swamps and contains images of Southern American backwoods life, unmatched in its rich, rustic flavor since Robert Flaherty's Louisiana Story. Pierce's photography accents the Arkansas swampland's incredible beauty and unsettling mystery, an unusual blend of malevolence and melancholia, eminently successful in giving the imagination a good, healthy jolt and in ultimately celebrating the unfathomable mysteries of nature."
Yeah. Again.
Yeah.
I think his background in advertising literally sold this movie and its subject.
Yeah, and then just like I love that bit in the quote, unusual blend of malevolence and melancholia, because like all those shots, on the water table, and just you get that like, okay, there could be something out there, but also you don't mind it so much, if it's just out there doing its thing, let it be happy, like let it have the beautiful land.
Leave the son of a bitch alone. I mean, I've driven through Arkansas through those areas, and if it's out there, you can have it. Yeah.
So I thought that was a pretty emblematic quote, and I think it hits up on a lot of stuff that you and I have talked about in the series.
Absolutely, and I like that we're all on sort of the same wavelength with this thing.
Yeah, we're all on the same swamp water wavelength.
Yes, this horrible, scummy, pond-ridden wavelength.
I don't know, that's bird shit or algae. I just don't know which.
It's something.
All I know is it's lapping up against my feet, and I don't care. So, the film would go on to spawn sequels, as any successful film does.
Right.
It would spawn imitators and influence filmmakers for decades. So, in 1977, an unofficial sequel called Return to Boggy Creek, directed by Tom Moore, featured Dawn Wells and Dana Plato. And had nothing much to do with Pierce's film.
Look, I can't hate it if it's got, like, Marianne in it.
Right.
I mean, come on, man.
And it's not terrible, honestly. It's an okay movie.
It's just not the same.
It has nothing to do with what Pierce did.
Yeah.
So, in 2011, Brian T. James's Boggy Creek, The Legend is Real, positioned itself as a sequel to The Legend of Boggy Creek. It was not. You get that a lot with these like unlicensed sequels.
That's about the best criticism I could hear about a film, is like it positioned itself as a sequel, and it was not.
Right.
Yeah.
There was one official sequel, which was in 1985, directed by Charles B. Pierce, and starring him. And that was Boggy Creek 2, and The Legend Continues. Now, there is some debate as to whether like the numbering of 2 is accurate, as people suggest like Return to Boggy Creek was a sequel that should be counted. But I offer that's unauthorized and had no input for Pierce, so it's kind of like Halloween. You just pick a continuity.
Yeah. I'm just going with the first movie, and then the more recent ones on that one. So
I would probably also throw away Boggy Creek 2, if I'm being honest.
Yeah, you know what? It's kind of like Highlander. It's like, damn, wish they made some good sequels to that. Oh well,
right?
Yeah.
So what is known for sure is that Boggy Creek 2 is not as good as Pierce's original directorial effort.
Brother, you can say that again.
Some might argue it is downright bad.
Yep.
What is good, however, is that it gave us a fantastic episode of Mystery Science Theater 3000.
Yes!
So with that, I want to sum up Boggy Creek 2 with a quote from Bill Corbett, Crow T-Robot / Brain Guy himself.
Yes, I love this quote, by the way.
This quote is so fantastic. So, quote, "It's the kind of movie that seems to hate you, to wish you active harm, to kick sand in your eyes and make you cry. And for me, this was personified by Mr. Charles B. Pierce, who is apparently responsible for every single aspect, every nanosecond of this cruel and unusual bit of celluloid. He chose to write and play a grim, hostile, condescending know-it-all of a man, a character who has proven superior to everyone else in the story again and again, who drills his lousy, stinking voiceover narrative into our heads every freaking second of the film, and who then has the temerity to wrap his movie up suggesting his sour Nazi of a character is really an ecological servant of God."
Yeah, no. Oh God, that killed me. Seriously, there's like every line Pierce says in this movie is silently followed up with "you dumb bastards." But I mean, there is a lot of ball hugging tennis shorts in this film as well.
Yeah, it also returns Chuck Pierce.
Yes.
Because his son, who was in the first film, comes back to play the research assistant in this one.
Oh, and he's wearing like the tightest, shortest tennis shorts the 80s
and he always takes his shirt off.
There is so much just, yeah, take your shirt off for this scene. Like, it's kind of
very bizarre.
And I hope I never see this fashion trend again, at least not on people like Pierce. I mean, there's some people I wouldn't mind seeing that on, but definitely not a dude in your 50s in an RV looking for skunk apes. This movie was so... It's not even a fucking documentary. It's literally just a horror movie. And, like, do you get the feeling like the bad guy was based on Herb a little bit?
When I picture Herb Powell, like, if I just think about him, I think of the guy in the one strap... the guy who had his little island, who had the baby
Sasquatch.
Skunk ape.
Yeah, the little Squatch getting locked up in the back bedroom.
Yeah.
I don't know what he's been doing with it, but I don't want to know.
Yeah, let's not go there.
We're going to move on.
But, it was definitely like a misstep. Pierce, overall, very strong career, but, like...
That wasn't part of it.
2, like, what the hell happened?
What the hell happened is he got so pissed at people making money off the movie he did, he was like, well, if everybody else can make money off of it, so can I. God damn it.
Yeah.
Again, followed by a silent, you dumb bastards.
But, it gave me a chance to read that Bill Corbett quote, which is...
Oh, God, yes.
I watch a lot of, like, drag stuff, so, shade is super important to me.
Sure.
It's part of my language, and just, like, the shade being thrown
Bill Corbett and Kevin Murphy are two of the most scathing critics of some of these films, and I love them for it. Speaking of, real quick before we move on, Kevin Murphy has a book called A Year at the Movies that he did before the September 11th attacks, and it is a fantastic book where every day he has to watch a film on film, and he travels all over the world to do it. He eats Thanksgiving dinner in a theater, having fold-up tables and Tupperware stuff in a trench coat, sneaking into a theater. It's just an amazing book.
Oh, that sounds so good.
He also describes having appendicitis as God reaching his hand down and placing a nuclear baked potato in his abdomen.
Oh, Jesus.
So definitely read the book if you can find it.
Oh, that sounds really good.
Yeah.
So obviously something went south on Boggy Creek, too.
Yes.
However, the legacy of Charles B. Pierce's original monster movie is powerful. the film was a major attraction of the drive-in circuit and has been in the news a bit recently as well.
Right.
So it was one of the movies chosen for what was supposed to be the final Joe Bob Briggs marathon on Shudder.
Mm-hmm.
And on that episode, they actually had Lyle Blackburn guest to share some of his insights on the Fouke Monster research. And he also joined Joe Bob for a rendition of "Hey, Travis Crabtree."
Oh my God, that's just fucking adorable.
I'm sure it's on YouTube somewhere. It's beautiful.
I'm gonna find it because that's just pleasant to think about.
Yeah, it's you can tell like Joe Bob is a big fan of the movie, and like because it's a drive-in movie. You know what I mean? It's like the perfect movie you want to watch sitting in your car in a darkened drive-in area.
Yes.
Maybe there's some trees around you and everything like that.
Maybe there's a swamp.
Yeah, maybe it's by the swamp. So, the film was also like a huge inspiration for Daniel Myrick's 1999 The Blair Witch Project.
Yeah.
Which I've really come around toward. Like, there are other ones I could, like, leave, but, like, that original Blair Witch Project, for what it is, excellent.
Well, that's the thing. It's... After everybody starts imitating it, you get tired of it, but after that whole spate of garbage is done, you can go back to the original and appreciate it for what it is.
Yeah, and, so obviously, like, Blair Witch Project, kind of like that documentary style, but we see a whole generation of filmmakers who were inspired by what Boggy Creek did.
Right.
Like, I'd even say, like Cloverfield, for example, is one of those films that...
Yeah, definitely a documentary, found footage type thing. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Now, in 2018, Pamela Pierce, Charles's daughter, obtained the rights to her father's film from Stephen Ledwell of Ledwell & Son, so The Son.
Yes.
Since then, the film was remastered and officially re-released on DVD and Blu-ray with a 4K restoration and has enjoyed several screenings, such as on Texarkana's Charles B. Pierce Day.
That is awesome, and it will also be playing at the Bigfoot Birthday Bash in Natchez.
And you're probably going to see that 4K restoration,
Yes, I'm looking forward to that. I hope I get to see it.
Yeah, I would love to see like a 4K restoration of the movie, because I've only seen like clips, you know what I mean?
Yeah. I'll skip Harry and the Hendersons, but if they start playing Boggy Creek, man, they got me.
Oh, man, I hope they do like a Rocky Horror thing where everybody starts singing Hey, Travis Crabtree.
Oh, God, that'd be great.
I hope they have someone come in a gorilla suit and start...
No, that'd be great.
That's what we need to do, is we need to launch like the Rocky Horror experience, but for the Legend of Boggy Creek. We can have like, someone can hold up like a window you get at Home Depot, and someone can reach their gorilla hand through it. Or you throw toilet paper at the screen when he goes to the bathroom.
Well, gonna have to send a Facebook message to the organizers now. All right. Next year, baby. Next year.
There you go. So now, while we're going to kind of like divert away from the enormous legacy and influence of Charles B. Pierce's monster film, we should realize that for many of us listening, our visual language and perception of the swampy Bigfoot is going to be forever colored by this movie.
Yeah.
When I read these encounters, my mind immediately sees them through the lens of Charles B. Pierce. Like, I see the film grain, you know what I mean?
I was just going to say, I see the film grain, I see the beautiful lighting effects from filming at sunset. It's seriously, yes.
Yeah. I see the guy in the gorilla suit with the wig stapled to him.
Straight through the mask into my forehead, baby. Come on, let's do this like Harrison Ford in that
I sacrifice for my art.
Yes.
So... it's an enormous legacy that this man and his movie, have. They occupy a major seat in the council of the most important movies in drive-in cinema.
Yes.
Like, hands down. And to accomplish that with a G-rated monster romp with a gorilla suit and a cast of crew of locals in a small swamp town is an incredible story.
Yes, absolutely. I cannot say this enough. The making of this film is a shockingly good feel-good story that needs to be told. And I still think we need to do a biopic about Pierce called The Legend of Boggy Creek, and it needs to happen sooner rather than later.
Yeah, I think biopics are always huge, but I think like a biopic about the independent film scene through this, and...
Yeah.
it would have that kind of tongue-in-cheek manner to it, but it would still be like it'd have those emotional moments.
Yeah,
like you'd have the scene with Charles, like at the back of the drive-in, and hearing laughter from the cars.
Yeah, no, seriously, do it in the style of "Dolomite Is My Name" or something. Get Will Ferrell. I don't care.
Will Ferrell as Charles B. Pierce would be actually very, very good.
I agree. I think it needs to be done like that.
We should just write the fucking screenplay.
You know what? I'm with you. Let's do it.
Yeah. So, I want to talk a little bit, because we've talked about so much about, like, prior to the 1970s. I want to talk about something a little more recent.
Heyday.
Yeah. Because the sightings of the creature haven't stopped.
Which is awesome.
Yeah. So, the Boggy Creek monster's allure and mystique didn't fade away with the movie leaving the drive-in circuit. Mm-hmm. Beyond inspiring other films, the creature continued to be sighted and pulled many cryptid hunters and researchers into Fouke's orbit.
Mm-hmm.
So, I have Lyle Blackburn's book, but it only covers up through about 2010. So between 1973 and 2010, based on his research, there have been 39 sightings related to what we know as the Beast of Boggy Creek.
That's a fucking lot in the world of cryptozoology.
Now, I came up kind of a dry post 2010, and I'd probably need more time to research that because I have to dig up like local news reports.
Right.
However, Blackburn does have a second book called Boggy Creek Casebook: Fouke Monster Encounters 1908 to Present, published in 2020. So I expect that has some fun and interesting information.
I smell a follow-up sometime next year.
Oh, that could be a lot of fun.
Oh, yeah.
So we're getting to the end here. I want to wrap up with two brief stories that I think are kind of great to kind of summarize what we've done here.
Absolutely.
So one of the stories is an encounter. The other one is kind of a example of the hokey artifice that lurks under everything we've talked about over the course of these 3 episodes.
Okay.
So, first I want to discuss a 1990s sighting that is particularly dramatic and vibrant, and shows that you can't keep a good swamp ape down.
Well, that's a fucking Broadway show waiting to happen that will be better than Cats, and I'm happy about that.
We'll make that musical number in our screenplay.
Hey, there you go. The new Hey Travis Crabtree is "You Can't Keep a Good Swamp Ape Down."
There you go.
Yeah.
So now Blackburn mentions that printed reports about the Fouke monster were hard to come by, like in the 1980s or so. Things changed in the 1990s. Obviously, we can probably attribute a lot of that spread to the internet.
And get that and the gradual encroaching on unspoiled lands, because there's been a lot of development in Arkansas, a lot of places that were small towns are developing into college towns. Not necessarily Fouke, but there is some encroachment into the bayous and swamps now.
Yeah, so naturally there's going to be some growth of the population, but also like communication gets a little more clear. I think everybody was too high on coke in the 1980s.
You're not wrong. Now everybody's just drinking natty lights and seeing stuff and in the 90s posting about it on Usenet. Yeah.
Or posting on YouTube. I bet you we could find some Fouke Monster videos on YouTube.
Ooh, I know what I'm doing after this.
So, what I like about this story, it's like many of the best of the 1970s Fouke Flap stories. It's got multiple eyewitnesses, the beast's activities are consistent with the other sightings, and the witnesses are super hesitant to come forward about it.
Again, you try getting the courage to report a fucking moon ape.
Right. So, around 11 p.m. on October 10th, 1992, 5 men were driving down FM 134. What is FM? That is like a...
Farm Muppet.
Farm Muppet. Okay, Farm Muppet
really
130.
Know.
It's going to be like Freeway something. I don't know.
Something Freeway Motivator, Manwich, I guess.
Here we go.
Yeah.
So, they're just passing by County Road 8 near the McKinney Bayou.
Right.
So they're driving along. It's at night. It's like a cold October night. And they notice headlights coming towards them from the other side of the road, right? Not a big deal. Nothing about this unusual until they saw this tall figure crossing the highway. Now, both vehicles hit the brake. One was this vehicle with 5 guys. I think it was probably a SUV or something like that.
Right. Like a Bronco or something.
Yeah, and then the other vehicle was a semi-truck.
Uh-oh.
So both the vehicles hit the brakes, and they're surprised to see such like a large, hairy creature wandering from the woods from one side of the road into a field on the other side.
Shit.
Now, obviously, like, it's at night, they're using headlights, you can't get a good look at the thing, but you can tell, if you look at something that's furry, you can tell, like...
It's furry.
It's furry, right? Because you have those thin
Backlit
wisps of hair.
Yeah.
So, the witnesses described the creature, which is only about 50 yards away from either of them, as being around 7 feet tall and walking upright, okay? Pretty consistent with what we've heard before. Mm-hmm. So, the creature seemed content to ignore them, though, never turning back or pausing to look back at the road.
Right.
Apparently had something he was bound and determined to do.
He's something on his mind. He's like, well, gotta go take a squat out here.
A Sasquatch.
Yes. Quality entertainment.
So eventually the whole group left their cars and they like got onto the side of the road to try to catch a glimpse of the creature.
Most intelligent thing they could do.
Yeah, so by the time they got there, like he had disappeared into the moonlit fog. It's a very eerie, very haunting sort of. And the fact there's like 6 people there.
Yes, lots of witnesses. I'm thinking maybe fame went to the creature's head. Maybe he doesn't have time for these country crackers anymore. Maybe he's got a meeting with an agent.
And it just, the creature was bound and determined to get across that road and didn't look back.
Yep. I mean, what's going to happen? I mean, if they hit him.
Yeah. They'll just probably, like, go through him.
Yeah, exactly.
Because he's probably a ghost.
Nobody ever hits a skunk ape.
And that's the sad part.
Yeah. Is it really?
Oh, I don't know. I feel like maybe if someone hit a skunk ape, we'd finally have, like, an answer.
Well, also, I'm thinking about this more practically. What do you put down for your insurance? What the insurance claim is hit skunk ape. What are they going to do?
Right? Like a deer will completely destroy a car.
Oh, yeah. A skunk ape, you're fucking dead.
Yeah. And then the skunk ape's probably just going to wander off.
Absolutely. It's like, my knee hurts.
Stemlo. I figured you'd appreciate that.
Yes, absolutely. Goonie goo goo.
Sorry, that made me laugh.
Yes.
So, this story is particularly great because, it's so emblematic of that Fouke flap. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's one witness.
Classic.
Oh, yeah. Oh, please go ahead.
I was just going to say, it's definitely a classic sighting.
Yeah. It's one of, like, the most... as far as all the other sightings we've talked about, that's such a good sighting, too.
Oh, yeah.
Because, like, it's the perfect kind of, like, Halloween story sighting.
It is. I saw the monkey man crossing the woods.
So, one of the witnesses said to Blackburn in 2004, quote, "All of us talked about what we saw to our families. I still think they don't believe us. We never reported anything at first because we didn't want people thinking that we were trying to get attention or something."
It's understandable.
So yeah, it's like everything that you want in a classic Boggy Creek Fouke Monster sighting is right there in that story.
Absolutely. It's one of my favorites we've covered just for the simplicity of it.
Yeah, and like right there in 1992.
Yeah.
So, it's so I figured I'd kind of use that as kind of like a perfect post Boggy Creek sighting.
Yes, absolutely.
Now, our second story here, and our final story.
Oh, boy.
This one involves Lyle Blackburn and good old Smoky Crabtree.
Everybody get in the clown boat. It's time to hit the fucking river on this one.
Now, the story itself is long, twisting. It's kind of an odyssey. I'm not going to cover all of it because I think we're going to do an episode on this in the future.
Oh, please do.
But I want to kind of set us up for this. So... one day at a Bigfoot researchers meeting being held in Texarkana around 2010 or so, Lyle Blackburn met Smoky Crabtree, who was speaking at the event.
It's a fucking Highlander. What the fuck?
Right, yeah. Now, Smoky's a very long-lived guy. There's something about the swamp people forever. Must be something in the water.
Fucking eating moss is what it is.
So, after the event, Lyle and a few others were offered an opportunity to follow Smokey to an undisclosed location to see some Fouke relics.
Okay, this has suddenly turned into an episode of the First 48.
Like, this is how you and I get kidnapped.
Yeah, no, this is how you and me are gonna die.
Hey, fella, you want to see a bit of a UFO?
You're goddamn right I do, sir.
I got it right here in my van. Go and put on this blindfold.
Yes, sir. Would you like me to give you a cashier's check while we're at it? Holy God. I mean, like, this reminds me of that thing they say on last podcast, never go to a second location.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it's a very strange. It's a very strange scenario, but it's totally in line with this kind of world of squatching. You know what I mean?
Seriously, I just picture a 120-year-old Smokey. Hey, man, you want to see some leftover artifacts from Fouke?
Mm-hmm.
I guess? How do you react to that?
So, eventually he kind of gets this location, and it's a densely crowded and darkened warehouse. Like, it's not entirely a warehouse, but, like a large storage unit, right? And like, very large.
I guess Judge Doom and the Weasels were there, and the Dip Mobile.
So, Smokey leads them through this, like, tangled path of, boxes and things and that sort of thing. And he takes them to this gigantic wooden panel against the wall that has a scrawled message on it. That message was 8-foot skeleton.
Wait, what?
Yes.
Okay.
So, sure enough, Smokey slid away the panel and revealed a massive acrylic case containing the still fetid remains of something, quite literally an 8-foot skeleton composed of dried sinew and tissues, bones, and missing a skull.
Okay.
It's Smokey's jerky.
Smokey smoked Sasquatch. Come on down, y'all. Oh my God.
So now imagine you're in this really weird darkened warehouse with Smokey Crabtree, and he opens up this panel and you see an 8-foot tall skeleton missing a skull that's still juicy.
Yeah, it's a juicy giant ape with no skull. It's the Kurgan.
Now what's even better? What's even better is that Smokey then proceeds to open the case and you get that smell.
Oh, that's pleasant.
Yeah, I guess you could say it was foul.
Oh, that's terrible. The foul stench of Fouke.
So, Smokey explains that around 1991, the skeleton had come into his possession. It had been discovered on the border of Texas and Louisiana, albeit headless and skinless. Yes. I have many questions.
Most of mine involve the movie Predator.
So, familiar with stories of the Fouke Monster, likely due to the Legend of Boggy Creek,
right?
The people who found the remains contacted Smokey Crabtree. Smokey, the natural businessman he was, because remember, he worked himself out of a sweet little gig with Charles B. Pierce.
Damn straight.
He agreed to work with the men to get it tested, get the remains tested, and claimed a 1/3 share of any profits made on the remains, which is a sweet deal. Like, he didn't do shit.
Yeah, he
didn't do shit. The two guys found it, and he's like, "Oh, here, come in for a third." Okay.
Into this situation.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
So, Smokey, good to his word. He does about $10,000 in tests with various scientists and university professors. Best they can determine it was that the remains weren't human.
Okay.
Now, Blackburn would later do his own research on the remains, discovering that they were known and debated in the larger Bigfoot community. The remains were even seen in a 1995 documentary called The Hunt for Bigfoot. So, the facts of the story of the skeleton didn't quite add up, and much of the media surrounding it was obscured or lost.
What in the fuck keeps happening to this stuff? How do you keep losing it?
Right.
What are you... I mean, like, are you on a boat with the papers loose on the back and they just blow off into the reservoir? What the fuck, people? Be careful with your alien and Bigfoot stuff.
Well, here's the thing. You know why it's so hard to find evidence of a Sasquatch, right?
Why?
Because it's in their bones.
Oh. I don't even know.
You seem so upset.
I don't even want to talk to you about that right now. Let's move on.
That's too bad. I'm still going.
Okay.
So, Blackburn's accounting of all this is it's a fascinating read. It's great archival journalism. Spends a great deal of time examining the history of these remains and their status in Bigfoot lore. But that is definitely a story for another episode. I want to do an entire story on this 8-foot skeleton.
Well, that is a fucking tease, and I am down for it.
So, I think here's where we're going to start wrapping up. So,
right.
We're going to end our 3-parter series on Fouke Monster here. We looked at the early sightings, a recent sighting, and covered the Fouke Flap, which was immortalized by one filmmaker who saw an opportunity and ran with it.
And God bless him for it.
And of the Bigfoot sightings out there, there are none as well documented, revered, or exploited as those of the events of the Legend of Boggy Creek, outside of the Patterson-Gimlin film.
And that's still just 2 guys and 2 horses.
Right. And then, the number of horses in our Boggy Creek episodes.
Yeah, but, the horses were involved in the mystery in this one. Yes, they weren't just witnesses.
So, if I were to try to put a little bow and tie this together, I want to say this. Ultimately, what we've covered here are 3 perspectives on a singular anomaly. Mm-hmm. Those are the people who witnessed them, the people of Fouke, and the Crabtree family. The movie man who made them famous, Charles B. Pierce, and the author and musician who was enamored with the film he saw in his childhood and has continued to explore to this day, Lyle Blackburn.
Right.
All in all, not a terrible outcome derived from sightings of a swamp ape.
That is a great way to wrap that up. And
thank you.
While the film made it famous, the nature of the film has cast a lot of strange doubt over the events. I know a lot of people think that this entire thing was just made up and don't believe any of it was based on actual encounters. You always hear, well, they just made that up for the movie. And I was curious if you've run across any of that in your research.
Well, I've obviously run across a number of skeptical articles because, people like Mike are out there always trying to shit on our fun.
Yes. It's like a dump in the pudding.
No, I mean, there's a lot of skeptical, and there's all these different explanations. I've read a thing about, the circus train hypothesis.
Oh, God.
There's also the theory that a few of the sightings were of a tiger.
What?
Someone, you've seen Tiger King, right? People collect exotic cats.
Sure, but I mean,
they don't take care of them, and they get out and loose.
And what do? Do they train them to walk upright and terrorize people and attack you while you're sitting in the living room?
You don't know. You don't know if the people. I'm just gonna say the people could have been high on their supply or something when they saw stuff.
Sure, okay, but
there's. Until there's very solid evidence, there's always going to be that huge shadow of doubt.
Sure.
The 8-foot skeleton probably belongs to a large cat.
Yeah, I guess so.
Or a bear or something like that. There are bears in Arkansas. So, it could have been a bear sighting too.
Well, I mean,
so there's all those doubters. All those doubters. You're always going to have that.
Well, my thing is about the circus train hypothesis. I can't imagine. There would have to be a book called The Obscene Number of Circus Train Disasters in the United States, 1895 to 1978.
Right, and I can't find any admittedly I haven't looked very deep into it, but I haven't seen anything in 1965 a circus train derailed in Arkansas.
Yeah.
I just don't see that.
Yeah, no, I mean, this is like the Fouke Monster, They say, there was a train wreck and he fought like a old Civil War colonel and now he still lives under the bridge, tricking people out into the center of the bridge where they get hit by trains. And I'm like, what?
Right.
What? I'm sorry, it's just there's not that many train crashes involving circuses. I mean, I'm not saying they didn't happen, but it's not like a fucking elephant train wreck every year for the last century.
Like, how many elephants and tigers are we losing to train accidents every year?
Yeah, I mean, seriously.
It's an epidemic at this point.
Yeah, it's
like any more than 2 in a decade is like, okay, there's something seriously wrong here.
Yeah, no, there's like some crazy bastard out there sabotaging the train tracks when Barnum and Bailey's coming through town. Or it's Barnum and Bailey putting all their competition out of business. That's the only other option I can think of.
There you go. It's just a circus clown with a sniper rifle. shoots one of the wheels and derails the train. And then as he leaves into the distance, you just hear a honk honk.
Are you saying it's the Joker?
Joker doesn't have a honky nose.
That's true. Well,
yeah.
Okay, that's fair. All right.
Yeah. It's just Bozo the Clown from
Bozo.
Barnum and Bailey, yeah.
Yeah. It's Bozo, straight out of Chicago, riding the rails, looking for circuses to derail. David, thank you so much for these episodes. They have been fantastic, and I hope everyone's been enjoying them. We've had a lot of fun talking about something that is very near and dear to both of our hearts.
Well, and I'd like to ask you a question. After we've done like 3 of these episodes, do you believe that there is something out there in the swamps near Fouke? Or there was?
All right. So, like, I've been through Arkansas.
And I'm so sorry.
God damn it. So, I've been, I've driven down some crazy-ass roads all over the place. I've driven over some of the bayous, and I'm not going to lie, man, if there's anywhere that something could hide, I mean, like, you can go for long stretches in Arkansas without seeing signs of civilization except the road you're driving on.
Yeah. So,
yeah, something could be out there. I'm not saying it's still out there. It could be.
Yeah, like, it's entirely possible. And, all the fun little synchronicities that pop up when we do these things.
Oh, yeah.
So, I had to get that Travis Crabtree video to you because I was like, hey, I want to play this during the episode.
Absolutely.
One of the comments on the YouTube video is a guy who apparently had a Bigfoot encounter in Hemet, California, which is where I live.
Oh, wow, really?
This year. And I think I know where he had that encounter, so I'm going to try to get a hold of him.
Really?
Because I want to check out. Because we have... I live just north of a large wilderness area called, like, Anza.
Mm-hmm.
And there's plenty of places where something like that. Like, I don't know if there's anything out there, but, like, this guy apparently saw something.
I found the comment.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's weird. I think you see me under there like, hey, I want to talk to you.
Yeah, but, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, we definitely need to get in touch with this guy, see if he'd be interested in doing an interview, because we could do that on the follow-up next year.
Because I know that you and I both collect books about sightings and supernatural. So I have a book, I don't remember which book it is, but it lists, like, sightings in Riverside, California, which is my county.
Right.
So I'm going to see if I can rustle up a skunk ape in my area.
Hey, there you go. Don't go out there and, like, literally rustle a skunk ape.
I'm going to go out there in my chaps.
Oh, nope. You're going out there in your ass chaps.
No, I'm going out just straight up chaps. I'm wearing nothing but chaps.
Oh, man. You gonna...
I want to hear the slapping as I walk through the canyon.
Jeez. I'm trying to find Sasquatch, but I'm so dummy thick, I just keep clapping. Maybe that's the mating call of the Sasquatch, is the clapping of ass cheeks. Just slap, slap, slap.
I hear slapping hams.
Hark, I hear a Sasquatch, the sound of slapping hams. That's great. Oh, David, thank you so much for these episodes. I really appreciate it. Tell the people where they can find you on the interwebs.
Well, I appreciate you letting me handle this. This was a lot of fun. If you want to find me, good luck. No, but seriously, though, I do a couple of fun webcomics. You can go to cosmic-.com. That's my science fiction adventure series.
About a turtle guy.
And then there is rgbots.com, which is a comic about robots saying obscene things to each other.
Which is friggin' awesome.
I appreciate that. And then I write for Haunted MTL, and I'm doing a podcast for them about the Chucky franchise.
Definitely check that out. I'm on a couple of episodes so far.
You've been on a couple episodes now.
Yes, I enjoy being on those couple of episodes.
Yeah, so you can find the podcast on Spotify. Just type in Kids' Stuff, a Chucky podcast.
Mm-hmm.
And, I also do a couple shows here on Deviant Behavior Radio. Other than that, I don't want to talk about myself too much.
Sure. Well, be sure to check the deviantbehaviorradio.com website. You can find the schedule, and it'll have David's shows listed on there, including the Mutant Hours. And what's the other one?
The Haunted MTL Radio Hour, where we play Haunted MTL podcasts.
Yes, definitely a good way to check those out. Also, for me, you can find me here on this podcast or Deviant Behavior Radio, mostly on the station. I'm doing promos and stuff, but you can find everything about the show at supernatpod.rocks. If you would like to find us on the socials, we're on Twitter and Facebook. Just look for @supernatpod. If you have questions for the show, we're always happy to answer questions. I know Mike is, and me and David...
Did we ever answer the question about the octopus?
Oh, we didn't. Are octopuses aliens? Yeah.
Yes.
Yes, absolutely. They're definitely fucking aliens.
We'll do an episode on that.
Yeah. Eventually, yes, we will do something about aliens on Earth, and we'll probably bring up octopi for various reasons.
Yep.
But yeah, socials @SuperNatPod. You want to ask us questions @SuperNatPod, or go to the website supernatpod.rocks. Use the contact form. You can,
and please make them invasive.
Make them as invasive as humanly possible.
I want you to make me cite hard figures.
Yeah. How many times have you tickled your own taint? Stuff like that. So that's about it. Thank you, everybody, for watching. We love all the support. Currently, Dave Holyfield is still king of the podcast. If you would like to join our Patreon, look for Supernatural Selection on Patreon. There's a link on the website. We're going to have bonus material as soon as we have some folks donating at those levels. So that's about it. So everybody stay safe, and until next time, stay frosty. Goodbye. And you know what? I'm going to take us out on something very, very special. You know what it is, David. We're going to go out with Travis again.
Guns a-blazing.
Guns a-blazing at that Bigfoot.
Hey, Travis Crabtree. Wait a minute for me.
Good night, everybody.
Let's go back in the bottom. Back where the fish are biting.
Supernatural Selection has been a production of DeviantBehaviorRadio.com. You can find it and more shows broadcast weekly at DeviantBehaviorRadio.com. Our theme music is Screensaver by Kevin MacLeod. It is used through Creative Commons license, and more of his music can be found at incompetech.filmmusic.io.